Breaking common sense barriers, Censor Studio. In Japan's 2025 House of Councillors election, the Liberal Democratic Party faced a historic loss, unable to keep a majority in the House of Councillors. Public opinion is demanding Prime Minister Ishiba's resignation. The Participation Party, a major opposition party, is making remarkable progress. Today, we'll examine this issue closely. The House of Councillors, the upper house of Japan's national diet, has 248 seats total. Half of these seats are newly elected every 3 years. In this election, 125 members were elected, 75 from local constituencies including 1 Tokyo district seat due to a marriage, and 50 from proportional representation. The Liberal Democratic Party and Komeito coalition sought to win at least 50 seats in the election to keep their majority in parliament. However, the election results were completely different. The Liberal Democratic Party won 39 seats, and Komeito secured 8 totaling 47 seats less than their 50-seat target. The ruling Liberal Democratic and Komeito coalition now holds 122 seats in the House of Councillors, while the opposition secured 126 seats. The opposition has ultimately gained a majority in the upper house, too. This marks the first time the Liberal Democratic Party has lost majority in both the House of Representatives and House of Councillors since its founding. The Liberal Democratic Party's nearly 70-year dominance since 1955 is now in a serious crisis. Amid this unprecedented situation, demands for Prime Minister Ishiba's resignation are likely to intensify. Japan is at a critical political juncture. The Liberal Democratic Party and Komeito Party's failure to secure a majority in the House of Councillors election has transformed Japan's political landscape into an opposition majority system. With the opposition already holding a House of Representatives majority, the House of Councillors election results dealt a decisive blow to the Ishiba cabinet, leaving them cornered. When the opposition controls both houses of the legislature, it can lead to a deadlock in government operations. Lacking opposition cooperation, no bills can pass, and all policy decisions are blocked. The Ishiba administration is trapped in an unprecedented political quagmire, with Prime Minister Ishiba's own political survival at stake. The decisive point is that this is his 3rd election defeat. He lost a key election last October, and in June, the opposition was crushed in the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly election. With this crushing defeat, he has set the unfortunate record of being a Japanese prime minister who lost 3 consecutive elections. Our fun and cool character, Shinjiro Koizumi, the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries, worked hard, saying he would stabilize rice prices and even managed to raise the approval rating from 20.7% to 27%. But it was Prime Minister Ishiba who ruined it all again. Because of that situation, even within the ruling party, doubts about his leadership are gradually growing. Within the Liberal Democratic Party, many believe that Prime Minister Ishiba's leadership has been severely damaged, with increasing calls for his resignation. However, Prime Minister Ishiba appears unwilling to resign voluntarily. In a live interview with Television Tokyo on July 20th, Prime Minister Ishiba expressed his intention to remain in power, saying that as Prime Minister and head of the cabinet, he would consider how to lead the government well in the future. In a later Nihon television interview, he ruled out resigning as Prime Minister, saying it was not an option. The very next day, on the 21st, Prime Minister Ishiba reportedly made his intention to stay in power clear at an emergency executive meeting of the Liberal Democratic Party. Afterward, he plans to announce administrative reorganization plans in a meeting with Komeito leader Saito Tetsuo. However, Prime Minister Ishiba's stubbornness conflicts with his past actions. In 2007, after Shinzo Abe's crushing parliamentary election defeat, he initially resisted resignation, but ultimately stepped down within 2 months. Who was the person who most strongly demanded Prime Minister Abe's resignation and criticized him at the forefront back then? It was none other than the current Prime Minister Ishiba. When in power, he refuses to step down, even if he loses, contradicting his past criticism of former Prime Minister Abe for doing the same, which he deemed irresponsible. As a result, Japanese politicians are increasingly criticizing Prime Minister Ishiba for ultimately following former Prime Minister Abe's path. It remains uncertain if Prime Minister Ishiba can maintain his position until the end. Reports suggest the Liberal Democratic Party is discussing an emergency response system. Rumors also indicate potential candidates for party president, including Sagi, have begun working behind the scenes. Political experts speculate that Prime Minister Ishiba may attempt to retain his position by abruptly forming a coalition government with opposition parties like the Democratic Party for the People or the Japan Innovation Party. This would be an attempt to regain a parliamentary majority, right? However, experts say that possibility is also considered unlikely. Within the Liberal Democratic Party, there are mounting calls for a new prime minister, severely limiting Prime Minister Ishiba's options for political survival. This election is not just an event where the Liberal Democratic Party lost seats, but will likely become a major turning point that fundamentally shakes Japan's entire political landscape. Prime Minister Ishiba, who has lost 3 straight elections, is at the heart of it all. Another key point is the turmoil caused by the Participation Party. The Participation Party, a major right-wing party, achieved a tremendous victory in this House of Councillors election. Previously, the Participation Party had only 2 seats in the House of Councillors, but thanks to this election, that number has increased to 14. The Participation Party has secured over 11 seats in the House of Councillors, allowing them to submit non-budget bills for the first time in Japanese history for a major right-wing party. The Participation Party's Japanese First policy resonated with citizens grappling with high prices and polarization. They focused their campaign on controversial social issues related to foreigners in Japan, which proved to be an effective strategy. The rapid rise in foreign workers and tourists in Japan has pushed foreigner policy into the spotlight as a major issue this election. Japan is currently experiencing a huge influx of foreigners. As a result, there are numerous social issues arising from this. Shinzo Abe opened up the labor market in 2019 mainly for simple jobs to address the labor shortage by bringing in foreign workers. As of 2024, the number of foreigners living in Japan reached a record high of 3.77 million. Foreign tourists also hit an all-time high, reaching 21.52 million in the first half of 2025. As social issues caused by foreigners escalated, the Japanese grew resentful. The Participation Party gained popularity by actively highlighting this problem. The issue is that many Participation Party policies are highly radical and rooted in conspiracy theories. Of course, these policies might be good from a Japanese perspective, but for Korea, they're not so welcome. The Participation Party leader controversially used the derogatory term "chon" for Koreans in a campaign speech. The Participation Party claimed that importing cheap foreign labor will suppress Japanese wages, blaming foreigners for the frustrations of low-income workers. Japan's national burden rate, which is the percentage of taxes and social insurance contributions in relation to gross domestic product, is 45.8%. They gained great popularity by promising to lower this to 35% and manage finances through deficit bonds. It's moving in a similar direction to how parties with anti-immigration stances are gaining popularity in Europe. Even if the Referendum Party enters parliament, it likely won't benefit the Constitutional Democratic Party. The Referendum Party tends to be even more conservative than the Liberal Democratic Party. So even if the opposition coalition tries to push a bill, there's no way the Referendum Party would cooperate with them. However, what we can analyze from the Referendum Party's surge is that it's also a sign that the right-wing factions in Japan are becoming increasingly divided. Historically, most right-wing voters in Japan supported the Liberal Democratic Party, but now hardline right-wing votes are split between them and the far-right Referendum Party. As a result, the long-standing dominance of the Liberal Democratic Party in Japan could collapse, leading to continued political turmoil in the near future. Within the Liberal Democratic Party, calls for Prime Minister Ishiba's resignation have begun. Former Prime Minister Taro Aso stated he cannot accept Ishiba staying as Prime Minister, and senior party members are taking action. The rise of the Participation Party has pushed various Japanese political parties to shift to the right. As a result, there are concerns that policies unfavorable to Koreans might emerge. Although the opposition has more seats than the ruling party, no single opposition party holds a majority. With numerous opposition parties, uniting on shared goals is challenging. Probably the most likely scenario is that Prime Minister Ishiba steps down, and with the opposition still holding more seats, another Prime Minister emerges from within the Liberal Democratic Party. If Prime Minister Ishiba resigns, the Liberal Democratic Party will hold a leadership election within a month, and the new leader will run for Prime Minister. If the opposition parties don't unite, the Liberal Democratic Party leader will become Prime Minister. However, if they work together, they could elect a new Prime Minister. It's unclear if a multi-party Prime Minister can effectively govern, but the Liberal Democratic Party is undoubtedly facing its greatest crisis since inception. For the first time since the party's founding in 1955, it failed to secure a majority in both the House of Representatives and the House of Councillors. It seems unlikely that the Liberal Democratic Party will be able to run the government smoothly going forward. They'll probably try to bring down all sorts of issues. Even if the next Liberal Democratic Party president becomes Prime Minister, the party will remain a minority in the House of Representatives. The Liberal Democratic Party may pursue a coalition with opposition parties to ensure smooth operation of the National Assembly. The Constitutional Democratic Party, Japan Innovation Party, and the Democratic Party for the People are potential coalition partners, but each opposition party is hesitant to join. The situation requires further monitoring. Potential candidates for the next Prime Minister from the Liberal Democratic Party are beginning to emerge in earnest. Sanae Takaichi, a hardline conservative, and others like Fumio Kishida, Seiji Kahara, and Shinjiro Koizumi are being considered. Representative Sanae Takaichi is exhibiting a staunchly right-wing position. Prime Minister Ishiba's pro-Korean stance maintained Korea-Japan relations to an extent. However, if Representative Takaichi becomes Prime Minister, Korea-Japan relations may face challenges. Representative Takaichi visits the Yasukuni Shrine, where Class A war criminals from the Pacific War are enshrined annually. She has declared that if she becomes Prime Minister in 2024, she will visit the shrine in that capacity. She is also hardline on the Dokdo issue, which seems likely to deteriorate Korea-Japan relations. The Liberal Democratic Party is considering holding the next leadership election as early as late July. If the next leadership election is held in late July, the House of Representatives might be dissolved, and a general election could be called to seek a mandate for the new government. The Japanese political scene is in chaos. What are your thoughts on the current state of Japanese politics? Share in the comments. That's all for this video. Thank you.